Hello YouTube, Captain Mac here, and welcome to our next flight in our Global 787 tour as we depart Anchorage, Alaska, all the way across the continent to Philadelphia. It's going to be a long flight today, and I'm really looking forward to it. You can see your flight information should already be popping up there. However, I'm thinking of doing away with that, and as that thing goes away, you're going to see a new title bar, if you will, down here on the bottom that's going to have some of the flight information for you, including our the start of our flight, and show us sort of where we're at on the route string, some other information. You may or may not be able to see it right now on the bottom there. It's going to be a little bit hard to tell. So my question to you is, right now it's really hard to see some of this information because it's dark out. I get that. So with that being said, would you prefer to have that information show up as it is right now, because when it gets lighter out, obviously you'll be able to see it much better, or would you prefer to have it with this bar right here behind it? So this sort of see-through red bar makes it easier to see all the information regardless of what it looks like outside. Now I know what you're probably thinking. Well, you know, you could throw the bar up there when it's dark out, and then you could not have it up there when it's light out, and so on and so forth. Yes, that's true. I could. To be fair, that's a lot of extra editing. What's the word I'm looking for? A lot of extra editing effort, I suppose. It's not that I can't do that. It just can be a bit of a pain in the butt. So just something to think about. And actually, I just finished doing the ACARS tutorial, like literally right before I started doing this, and I did notice, and let me pull it over here, on the ACARS here on the flight or aircraft data page, there's this data here which should change as we go. So that being said, I might be able to actually grab this data and put it, you know, in some little boxes up here. Maybe just screenshot those little boxes across the top or something up here to show you, you know, this information as it changes. You know, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, again, it's not that I can't do it, but it is a lot of effort. So if I wanted to take this data right here and just put just this little box right here, I can put it up over here as a a little individual sort of video of its own, I guess. But in order to do that, yeah, I'm trying to think here. Trying to think while I'm doing a video, and that's probably not the best way to do it. But basically what that means is, in order to do that, I have to record this throughout the entire flight as well, and that's not really going to work. So I'm not sure that's not going to work the way I hoped it would. Never mind, I'll shut up about that. Anyway, so you get the point. You see what I'm trying to do. And if anybody knows a way where I could put this same type of information that you see down here, where I can put the ground speed, the altitude, and so on, and it'll change with the aircraft. If anybody knows a way to do that, that's not strictly an editing trick, something that will track that information as I'm flying, that'd be fantastic, and I'd really appreciate it. Okay, enough of talk about that stuff. We need to jump in the aircraft and get going, because our flights take a long time. Now, I do appreciate all the feedback that I got from you guys. A lot of you gave me some great feedback when I asked about what you're looking for in the videos, how much of the video you watch, and so on. And for the most part, you guys have told me, hey, you like the videos the way they are. One of you made a comment. You said, you know, basically after you do the first couple of flights or the tutorial or whatever, you don't need to really go through everything. Just do what you got to do, and, you know, and spend a little less time. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to go through it a little quicker without explaining everything that I'm doing. So we're getting ready to kick off with our initial pre-flight here, which is our flight deck safety inspection. We're going to bring the battery switch on in a minute. We're going to check our hydraulic panel, make sure C1 and C2 pump switches are off, demand pump selectors will be off, wiper selectors off, nav light switch will come on, logo light switch will come on because it's nighttime out, and so on. You know what, let's just go ahead and jump right into this. We're not going to be able to see real well at first, but let's jump up here and do it anyway. So very difficult to see, but let's go ahead and get the battery on here. Okay, you can see the battery is on now, and let's flip on dome lights here. Ooh, there we go. Now we can actually see. We'll check our hydraulic panel. Both of these need to be off. Both of these need to be off. They are. Wiper blades need to be off. Nav light switch needs to come on because we're bringing power on the aircraft. And logo lights because it's nighttime and we want our logo lights on. Jumping down below here, landing gear lever needs to be in the down position. It is. Alternate flap arm switch and alternate flap selector, which is these two, both need to be off. And they are. And then the parking brake needs to be set, which it is. So that being said, we can jump right away and let's get... Now remember, your battery's not going to last for very long. It's 12 1200 seconds is what I have the time set at in my FMC. That's an option in here if you didn't know. And so what we want to do is get external power on the aircraft as quickly as possible so we don't burn through that. So just pop up your Quality Wings control panel by clicking here or the alternate button on the overhead. Flip on the external power, and I'll turn that button off up here. It's the aft external power that turns it on and off, and now you can see we've got our external power available. So click on that, bam, external power on the aircraft, and we're not burning through our battery. Alright, let me switch pages here. And so next on our list would be APU, but we're not going to start the APU yet because we're not going to burn the fuel. We got a long flight, and that's going to take us into our initial pre-flight procedure, which is all these ridiculous checklists popping up. You see there's a whole bunch of them, and there's a lot of information to go through, and this is what takes, typically takes us so long getting started on this aircraft. But now that we've had an opportunity to, and you see I'm just kind of throwing them up there all crazy now because it's just more fun that way. But the aircraft is going through all its startup procedures there, and we're going to start doing our thing, starting up here with the iris selectors. They've already been off, so we need to just turn those on. And then you can hop down. So it tells you to go down to the CDU ident page, and really we're just checking our information here. It is the 787. I did change to the proper engines for this aircraft as far as my PFPX data. However, PFPX is doing something really weird with just this airplane, where it wants me to fly at 5,000 feet or lower for this 2,500 mile flight or whatever it is, and that's not going to happen. So, but anyway, AirX cycle's up to date. We're going to go there. You don't need to do, when you go to position initialization, we can put in the reference airport, but we don't need to put in a GPS coordinate. The way this one's set up, the aircraft knows, including the FMC, knows where you're at in the flight simulator at all times, and so the way it's designed, we don't need to put anything in there. We can put a reference airport in. We can put a gate in if we want. We're not going to, because I'm never sure if the gates are accurate. We did load the cold and dark state because that little trick that I got from Quality Wings to remove those two slashes didn't seem to work. Now, something I didn't consider those when I did the update, it's possible that it updated that config file and those two slashes are in there again, so maybe that's something I need to check on there. Moving along here, let's see. We need to select systems on any one of these. We'll just use this one right here. We want to make sure that neither our hydraulic nor liquid cooling quantities display RF or OF anywhere, and they do not. So we're not worried about that. Circuit breaker status verify. Click on that. This is the one we want. We're just making sure there's no open or tripped circuit breakers. And let's put this back over on the CDU for now because we're done with it for the moment. The engine display switch, it says to push it. We don't actually need to push it because we've already got the engine information down here, but just in case you forgot, it's this button right here that turns this information on and off. And we want to make sure that we have at least 18 quarts of oil, which of course we do. We want to check that the ICUS displays are normal, so we can cancel and recall these, so clear them all out and then bring them back on. And we're just looking for any abnormal warnings on here. Hydraulic pressure, engine shut down, left and right packs. All this stuff is expected information because the aircraft has not been started yet. And that's going to take us to the long overhead panel fun stuff, starting all the way up top. Now this is one of the things they said, you can't do anything with flight control switches, so don't even cover it. So okay, that's a fair point. Moving down, however, to the heading reference switch needs to be normal, this guy here. The primary flight computer's disconnect switch needs to have the guards closed. This light needs to be out. Basically what you're doing at this point is you want to get to a point where you pretty much remember how things are going to go. So for example, I can basically go down here. I know these lights are all supposed to be on. APU should be off and default light should be out. That doesn't do anything. Well, it does something. It pops that up. External power we're using right now, I know all of these should be on with the off lights showing, and the drive lights should all be showing as well, and the wiper should be off. Then I jump back up top here. I shouldn't have any lights on here. Flight deck door power needs to be on, so I want to turn that on, and all of these guards should be closed, and the service interphone should be off. All of these need to be on, so I'll click all of these on real quick, and then all the in-op lights should go off. Ram air turbine guards should be closed. We should have left and right engine hydraulics, primary hydraulics on with the fault lights illuminated. All four of these fault lights illuminated and all four of these switches off. Passenger signs can go to auto. We can do what we want with the lights. We're going to need them because, after all, it's nighttime right now. Glare shield panel, let's turn that on real quick. We don't need any landing lights on. Coming back up over here, ground test should be normal. We're not messing with any of those. We can, now if you do this, guy this guy doesn't show that light, does it? There's one that'll highlight these lights here, but I forget which one it is. But you can also do the test here anyway, and it highlights all of those lights, and then they should be off. Let it finish doing that. And let's see. Boy, I got way up here. Hold on, I got to change pages here. Seatbelt sign, ground test selector, APU fire panel. There we go. Okay, and then the engine panel, and we're on our way. We're doing pretty good. So you see how quickly you can go through this, because I know how these things are supposed to be set up. I've done it a few times, right? So I'm not really using the checklist right now. I'm doing the flow is what I'm doing. So these should both be normal. Start switches should both be normal. Shouldn't have any lights on the fuel jettison right here. The pumps. And let me double check here. Pumps, fuel, crossfeed switch should be off, which it is. Fuel pump switches should all be off. If we had the APU on, this one would be on, but it's not right now, so we're good there. Oh, excuse me. And then the anti-ice, we leave it all in auto. And then our lights down here, we don't need runway turn-off lights, taxi lights, strobe lights. We did our tests already just because I was trying to show you something that didn't work. This is the APU bottle discharge light that it's talking about. Obviously, it's not illuminated. I don't know why I just clicked on right washer. And then we don't need beacon or wing lights yet, so we're good to go on those. Jump back up over top here. The ELT is good to go. Humidification switch, is that what it's called? Humidification switch. I would think they would just call it a humidifier switch. Anyway, that needs to be on. Let's see. These, I don't mess with these at all. I leave the cargo temp as it is. Air conditioning, auto, and then upper and lower recirc fans both on. Flight deck temperature and cabin temperature both in the 10 o'clock position. Left and right packs both need to come on, and the off lights should be extinguished. Trim air on, ventilation fan on, pressurization, we leave that on auto. I don't mess with it. And then the right wiper, and we're good to go. So if I go back to the start of this on the checklist here, I can just basically literally go right down the list. So passenger oxygen light, oh, that's not even the right, I gotta go back on another page. There's so much stuff here. Flight control surface panel, tail switch, wing switch, both normal. Heading reference switch is normal. Primary flight computer's disconnect switch has the guard closed. Electrical panel is set. Battery switch is on. IFE passenger seat power switch is on. Cabin utility power switch is on. APU generator switches are on. Generator control switches are on. APU selector is as required. Left wiper is off. Towing power panel lights are off. Flight deck door power switch is on. CCR reset switches have the guards closed. Emergency light switch has the guards closed. And the service interphone switch is off. Passenger oxygen light has the guard closed. Window heat panel is set. That's both backup and primary window heat switches are on. Ram air turbine unlocked light, verify it's extinguished. Left and right engine primary pump switches are on. Center 1 and 2 electric pump selectors are off. Left and right electric demand pump selectors are off. And I'm not even going to finish reading. You guys get the point, right? So that's kind of how it goes. You do your flow, and then you do your checklist. And that's kind of what we're trying to do here. Fantastic. Okay. Where does that take us to here? Last thing we did, okay, we're down to the glare shield now. So we can hop down here. We want to make sure that our flight directors are on. Some of this stuff actually comes a little later, but I'm going to do it now in the flow anyway. Auto throttle's on. This switch needs to be up. We're using inches. We need to set this to 2952. Oh, and you can change this to a rotary dial or realistic. So I guess realistic is you would hold it and it's like a spring-loaded switch. I like rotary because it's easier to use in the sim. But that may not be the way it is in the real world, right? 52. There we go. 2952. We're going to leave it on radio minimums right now. The range is good where it's at. As far as the menu goes, do I want to pull anything up here? Yeah, I want to pull airport up on here. We'll do that. I don't need to go to the plan page right now. We haven't gotten to that point yet. Let's see. Minimums are set. We don't need the flight path vector switch. We don't need the meter switch. Barrel reference is set to inches. We've taken care of that. Nav display is set on map. We've taken care of that. We're not going to use the center switch. I do like to switch this with this one over here so that I get the large map view. I appreciate that view very much. maybe I'm getting old or something. And then the range selector, if we want to be able to see the airport, we want to bring that all the way down to 0.5, 1, 2, or 5. So we'll probably have it at 1 there. That'll work for us. And let's see what else we got here. Weather switch is off. That's good. Traffic and terrain switches as needed. We don't need those right now. Auto throttles are armed. See, I just got a little ahead because I knew that was going to happen. Autopilot disengage bar, that's this one here, has already been taken care of. Heading track reference switch as needed. That's these ones up here. I don't change heading and track. I don't change vertical speed to flight path angle either. Altitude increment selector, we're going to switch that. Right click the back knob to switch it over to 1000, so we can, if I can, there we go, we can scroll it up like that. Ultimately we're going to be going to 41,000. I have not looked at the departure yet to see if there's any altitude restrictions, so I'm just going to set it at 41 for the moment. If I need to change it later, I will. Indicated airspeed will get changed to our V2 speed here in a little while, or it should anyway, but I'll probably forget knowing me. And then we can hop over to our sidewall. That's not the sidewall, that's the sidewall. We're going to test the oxygen, so you want to make sure it's stowed. And then click, and it sticks every time I do it the first time. No idea why. Come on, where are you at? There we go. But when I do it the second time, it doesn't stick. So I'm not sure if that's some kind of error or what, but it is what it is, right? Let's see, what else? We got to swing up to this guy right here. Air data. This needs to be on auto. PFD, MFD needs to be on normal. We can do our lights over here. We're not going to mess with them. We've got plenty of light at the moment. At least I think we do. We can turn on the, that's the panel floodlight though. Let me take a look at something here real quick. Yeah, we've got our backlights on there, so I'm good with that. And then moving over here, we're taking a look actually at our primary flight display. It should show TCAS off. It'll do that if we switch traffic here. Now it shows TCAS off. This box should be blank. This one should say TOGA. This one should say TOGA. This one should say Flight Director, and it should say no V speeds. And then of course it should show us as straight and level because that's where we're supposed to be right now. So we're looking good on all of those. Let's see. Going over to the landing gear panel here, and that's this one down here. We want to make sure that the gear is down. That would make sense, right? Alternate gear switch needs to have the guard closed, and auto brake needs to be to RTO. It doesn't scroll with the wheel, so you have to click it. We also want to make sure that our my brain doesn't want to work now. Integrated standby flight display, ISFD. This needs to basically match this right here, at least where it makes sense. So there shouldn't be any approach information. If you click on that, you see the approach bars. That shouldn't be on. The altimeter should be set. We could change it between hectopascals and inches. Obviously, we're going to leave it on inches. And then what else does it say? Verify that the flight instrument indications are correct. So same thing, that it shows straight and level, which it should. And then moving back, and we'll just float on back here. There we go. Speed brake lever should be down. That's this guy. Obviously it is. Reverse thrust levers should be down, and then the throttle should be closed. Flaps should be, it says flaps, where's it at? Oh, it doesn't say flaps yet. Parking brake needs to be set, so there's a parking brake stabilizer. Cutout switches need to have the guard closed. That's those two there. Fuel control switches in the cutoff position. No fire warning lights. We would know if we have lights. Obviously we don't. Alternate flaps panel. These two need to be as we checked, or as we made sure they were set earlier. So guard closed, light off, and then off. So we're good on that. And it didn't say anything about the flaps. Oh, the flap lever is way down here. It says flap lever set, but if it's up, it shouldn't show anything up here. And then if you were to move the flap lever even one setting, it would show that on here even though the flaps wouldn't move. So I just bypass it. We're not going to tune the audio panel. We're not using ATC. We'll probably never use ATC at the rate we're going. I don't foresee a good ATC program ever coming out. Flight deck door access selector needs to be in the auto position. It is. Engine fire panel needs to be set. That's this one here. So lights need to be off. They shouldn't be discharged. Glide slope inhibitor should be off. This should be in, transponder should be in standby. Auto cancel lights should be off. Evac command should have the guard closed. Floor lights as desired. And what else? Did I miss anything? Nope. Then we go into CDU EFB pre-flight, and I'm just gonna, let me just burn off a bunch of pages here on my checklist because I'm not gonna need them. And then we'll dive into our FMC. Hold on, like there's, like I don't even know why I keep these pages in here. There's so many of them, it's ridiculous. Okay, there we go. That's like 20 pages I just got rid of. Okay, hopping up here then to our FMC. Again, if you have any familiarity with a Boeing flight management computer, that's what FMC stands for. There's always that debate between whether this is called the FMC or the CDU. Well, I've talked to real-world pilots who fly aircraft like 737s and 777s, and they all say the same thing. They call it an FMC, so we're going to keep calling it an FMC. Either way, if you have any familiarity with this particular tool on an aircraft, this will be very simple for you. So we're going to start with our route here. Click on that. Oh, quick note, somebody noted for me that when you go to press something on here, it does highlight in that magenta color like that. Pretty cool. So I just thought that was something that Quality Wings did, but no, that's the way it really is. So we're going to do a route request here. And we are going PANC to KPHL. So you can see that I've saved the route in there. For those of you who use PFPX, you need to save it in the Quality Wings main folder and then move it to the 787 flight plans folder. Just a heads up. So we'll click on that. And then we need to click, I believe, request again, right? No, we don't. Okay. So click on that. And then flight number is 102. Put that in there, bam, and then execute that. Okay, just so you know, next page is to actually build the route. Why is it not? That's interesting. Let's go to legs page real quick. No, our legs are in there. That was kind of weird. That's kind of weird though. When you go here to page 2. Oh, they're in there now. They just hadn't loaded in yet. Okay, so they're all loaded in there. So we don't need to build it. Then we go to performance initialization. Now we are heavy. I've loaded this bad boy down a little bit. So just an FYI, when we get to our thrust limit here, we're going to be using full thrust, but we'll use climb 1. Anyway, cruise altitude is going to be flight level 410. Type her in there. Put her in there. Cost index. Remember, it says in the manual is between 0 and 2,000, but that's not correct. It goes up to 999. So we're going to stick with 500, which is what we've been using. That seems to work out pretty well. We end up just a little late. Temperature and all that is already taken care of. We're going to do 5.0 on the reserve fuel there. You could do a performance request. Well, no, you can't. It's not highlighted, so you can't do a performance request. Execute that information, however, and then we'll go to our thrust limit page. We're going to stick with a normal takeoff, but we're going to do climb 1. We should have no problem with that. And then go to our takeoff page. Boom. Flaps 5, I'm good with that. I'm going to leave it as is. I'm not going to do the center of gravity trim because I want to use our, come on, brain function, EFB to do that. However, we do want to take care of departure arrival real quick. So let me pop the flight plan up over on the side here, make sure I get the right departure. It's going to be the Turna 7, Turna something 7. So PANC departure, Turna 7, and it's going to be runway 33, which is going to be convenient since our wind is 330 at 9. Execute that. Back to the route page. Back to this is just the easy way to do it. And you see it says FMC pre-flight complete. If we went over to our takeoff page, it'll show us our V speeds and all that, but it will not show our center of gravity yet. However, this is the point where we jump over here. Initialize flight. You can click here on this, or you can click on the hard button on the side. You don't want to close it out yet. Go to your performance. And then copy FMC data. I messed this up one day. Copy FMC data first. And you see it says right here, center of gravity 17. So we can type that in when we're ready to. Airport's PANC, runway 33. Flaps are going to be 5. Thrust rating is going to be takeoff thrust. Bam. Okay, and then there's something else we're supposed to do, right? Oh yeah, runway condition. Runway condition is dry. And now we don't need the keyboard. I'm not worried about it. We can hit calculate. It gives us this information, gives us our V speeds, which may or may not have changed. Go down here to send output. I don't know why it doesn't highlight, but it doesn't. So send output, send to FMC, complete. You hear the little notification there. If we hop back over, you can see it automatically took us to our takeoff reference page here. And we can accept or reject these numbers. We're going to accept them, of course, because why not? And so that takes care of our all of our FMC pre-flight actually, so, and that puts our V speeds in there. My brain doesn't really want to function very well today. Big surprise, right? It's like every time I start to do a flight, my brain goes blank. Dirt. Okay, that's taken care of, which takes us over to what? That takes us to our before push procedure. Fantastic. So we'll pop the legs page up on here real quick. We want our V speeds page up on here. Let's set this, what did we say it was? 143. So let's set our V2 speed in here, 143. That's way too low. There we go, 143. Seatbelts are, we need to have our seatbelts on, make sure the seatbelt sign is on. Hydraulic pumps all need to go on. This is where my flows aren't quite as good. So the way this, it says on here, right demand pump selector, then left demand pump selector, then C1, C2. Now I don't know if that order is specific for a reason, but that's the way we're going to do it. So right click once to auto on each of those, then C1 and C2. All the fault lights should go out. Verify the fuel. So if we hop down here, we can see right here, here's our fuel at 70.5 as it should be. And since we're in our before push procedure, let's go ahead and fire up the APU real quick. Very simple process. Right click once to the on position. You can see that the pressure light went out there. Right click again to go to start. And then you can pull up on any one of these pages. Remember, all of these will display pretty much all the information. So I can go here to systems, and you can see here APU spinning up. So that's just by clicking systems here, and then I can change that back to nav display just by clicking on it, and I can do the same thing down here, of course, which is one really cool aspect of the way this aircraft works. Okay, fuel pumps all need to come on. Let's get those spun up, on. And we don't need the crossfeed or the center because we don't have any fuel in them. We're close to needing fuel in them, but we don't. There's no pressure. The pressure lights currently aren't showing anything. Let's see. Stab and rudder trim. We need to set. Oh, that's what we didn't do. See, I forgot. We got to do our trim here, right? So we can click it. It'll put it down here in the scratch pad, and then we can click it again, and it'll put it in there. Or we can type in what we had over there, which was 17, and there we go. And then we need to be at 5% on the trim. And here's the trim. You can see we're at 4. It wants us at 5. Now the trim will move. I'm holding the button down right now. You see it's starting to move. But it's not using hydraulics to move it. So it's moving very, very, very slow. So we'll just sit here and we'll wait. And we'll wait some more. And we'll wait some more until we get to 5. Any day now. There we go. Now we're at 5. Did I hear the flap lever move? I did not. I don't know what I heard. Alright, so that takes care of that. Where are we at here? So that was the stab and rudder trim. We want to check doors. Okay, so the APU's up and running now. Okay, you can see it's at full RPM. So real quick before we check doors, let's go ahead and get rid of the external power. So let's turn that off. We're on APU. We might as well use it. Turn it off on the Quality Wings control panel. And there we go. And then we want to check doors. So let's come over here. Again, we're already on this info page, right? So just select doors, and we can see that all our doors are closed and armed, and that the lav is vacant. That's the bathroom for those of you who don't know. Beacon can go on at this point, which it probably should have come on as soon as we fired up the APU anyway. And let's go ahead and turn the wing lights on. Transponder goes to transponder. And I'm trying to find the right button here. That's way down here. I don't know why it goes to transponder. I think that's so that they can tell where you're at on the ground. Anyway, there it is, transponder mode. We never did change our transponder code, did we? If you click on transponder here, we want our transponder code to be 2336 because that's how I roll. Click it in there, bam, easy days, done. Oh, the weather radar does work on this, guys. You don't actually have to do anything. You can leave all of this as is, and the weather radar will work just fine. So at this point, we need to take care of our before start checklist, and I'm going to do this. Normally, I do it down on the FMC. I'm going to do it up here since I've been using this one. Click on checklist. The pre-flight checklist, we could have done, we didn't do it. Probably said in there somewhere to do it, but either way, oxygen was checked. Flight instruments, heading altimeter, all that stuff is set, so we're good.
Gentlemen from the flight deck, this is your
I forgot, he's got to talk at this point.
Welcome aboard today's flight. We're just finishing up our last minute paperwork, and once we've done that, we'll push back. We're estimating an on-time departure. In the cabin today are some of our finest flight attendants.
Finest.
For your comfort, but most of all for your safety, so we ask that you give them undivided attention whenever requested. Once again, thanks for flying with us. Sit back and relax, and I'll update you on our progress once we're airborne.
Alright, fantastic. I forgot that he does that after the pre-flight. I'm going to have to figure out, I know it says somewhere in there, perform pre-flight checklist, and I just never do it. If you click on the normal button, it takes you right to the next checklist. Flight deck door close and lock has been taken care of. Passenger signs are good. MCP has been set.
Taxi route is per ATC instructions. Standard reject procedures. Will depart via the SID, climb to initial altitude. In the event of an emergency return, we'll coordinate with ATC. You'll fly the airplane, I'll run the checklist, and coordinate with the air traffic control company and the flight attendants. Any questions?
Okay. So I think he does that as soon as you hit the passenger signs. Takeoff speeds are set, CDU pre-flight is completed, and then taxi and takeoff briefing. That's what he just did. Of course, we're going to do our own taxi and takeoff briefing once we cruise out of here. So we can click that one off. Checklist is complete. Click on normal, and it takes us to the before taxi, which is similar to an after start checklist. So we can leave that where it's at for the moment, or we can change it to back to systems and go to status. I don't even think status will do us any good. Do we have an engine page on here? It'd be nice if we had an engine page. You got your hydraulics, fuel, all that good stuff. We'll just leave. You know what? Let's just leave it on the. Put that on status. Put this on checklist. We're good to go there. And that's going to move us into our engine start procedure. Of course, we have to push back in order to do that. The runway we're taking is actually right ahead, almost right ahead of us. We're taking off that way there, so pretty straightforward on that. Not a big deal. But we're going to do a taxi brief anyway. And excuse me. You know what I noticed is it's not actually showing the airport down here. Normally it does, right? Maybe we need to scroll down one more. Yeah, normally it shows the taxiways and stuff, but it's not for some reason. I'm going to hit those because I know I'll forget later. Okay, well, either way, I'm just going to double check, make sure I haven't forgotten anything, and then we'll be right back, and we'll take care of our push and start. Alright, all is well in the flight sim world at this point, except maybe our frame rates, who knows. So we're ready to go ahead and push back. To do that, it's just going to be a simple Shift plus P, but we want the nose to go to the left, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Shift plus P, and then the number 1, and that should turn our nose to the left as we push back, right? So, well, we want to make sure that parking brake's off first, though. So, parking brake off, Shift plus P, and then the number 1, which also happens to be the key that takes me right here. And that's what I want. So, let's go ahead and start the engines. All the way up top here, the engine start switches. You can... I don't know why he does it like that. Come on. Come on.
Clear to start engines.
Roger. Clear to start engines.
Okay.
Start both engines.
So, left click to start. Count to 5 in your head, which I'm not really counting, I'm just guessing. And then click the other switch to start over here. And then come down, fuel control on, and just because I like to keep it even, fuel control on after about 5 seconds. And both oh, it's turning the nose the wrong way, isn't it? Son of a gun. Well, I don't like that one bit. Why is it turning the nose? Oh, you know what? Because it's the tail. It's moving the tail rather than the nose. That's alright. We can still make do with where it's going to put us. So it's starting both engines right now. You can see it's showing auto start down here. And then they should show that they're running here momentarily. Let's give it a minute. Yep, there you go. It shows running now. And it'll display that message for, I think, like up to 30 seconds or something. But that just lets you know that the engine is up and running. So we're good on that. Let me take a look at where he's actually putting us here. Boy, you just can't see nothing. It is so hard to see at night. Goodness gracious. Okay, that's plenty far enough, dude. We'll stop right there. Shift P to stop. Parking brake set. Good night. Okay. That was, so I guess it's stabilized once the running message goes away or something. That's kind of how I would consider it. But that's simple start procedure for this aircraft. Really like it. It's nice and easy. Which is going to take us to our before taxi flows. We want to make sure that the APU is off, of course. So we just click that off because power is coming from the engines now. Engine anti-ice as required, which basically we don't need to do anything with it. We don't need it right now. Cancel recall switch. It does say TCAS is off. We'll take care of that in a little bit. We do want to take care of our flight control check, however. Alright, so if I change this guy here to systems and then go to flight controls, okay, and then we're going to do our check. So we're going to go full left, full right, and neutral, all the way up, all the way down, and neutral, and then our rudder, full left, full right, and neutral. That takes care of our flight control check. Put that back on the checklist right there. And radio panel, we're not going to do anything with that. And flight deck door is closed and locked. And that's going to take us to our before taxi checklist / procedure. There's all kinds of checklists and procedures all over the place. So let me make sure I don't miss anything here. APU has been taken care of. Engine anti-ice is good. Recall has been checked. Auto brake is to RTO, which it is down here. Flight controls have been checked. Flaps need to be set to flaps 5. That's 1. There's 5, and they'll set themselves, obviously, because they use the hydraulics to do that. That'd be a pain to move these flaps by hand. Could you imagine? CDU reference speeds need to be set. That's already been done. We've got the reference speed up here, 143, and of course it's on the page down there as well. And what else? Stab and rudder trim needs to be set. It's at 5.0 where it should be. Radio panel's good. Flight deck doors closed and locked, and we need to perform the before taxi checklist. So anti-ice is good. Recall has been checked. Auto brakes, RTO, flight controls are checked, and ground equipment should be clear by now, which will take us to our before takeoff checklist, which will be flaps only. That's already good. So click normal again, and that'll be our after takeoff checklist, which we don't need at the moment. So we want that on nav display. We do have some terrain around here that I just thought about. So again, I can hit terrain over here, or I can click on menu and I can select terrain here. And the weather's not bad, so I don't think we need to worry about selecting weather or anything like that. And hop back up here. We do need to take care of our lights real quick. So what we want is hold on. There's your Captain Matt cough. Taxi light needs to come on. Strobe light does not yet. And then dome lights can come off. But of course we want our overhead and our panel lights to be on so that we can see where we're going. So we're actually going to get ready to taxi out here, and I just want to make sure I know where I'm at. We're going to go up here and then over here and then over here, and then you're going to see that on the taxi brief. So track IR coming on, a little jump here. There it is. Let me sit back, relax. It pushed us back to a weird position, but that's alright. Brakes coming off, a little bit of thrust coming in, and you guys go ahead and sit back, relax, and enjoy your taxi and departure briefings. Alright, let's take a look at this taxi and departure briefing really quick. We are actually parked right about here, near where it says G1 on here. It is supposed to be a gate, but I don't see a gate there. There's no terminal there. The terminal's behind us. They probably bus them out there or something like that. But either way, it's pretty straightforward as far as our taxi is concerned. We're going to be using runway 33, so we want to push back, and we're going to take, looks like Lima here, down to Romeo, hang a right. I'm sorry, yeah. Hang a right, yeah, sure. Hang a left on Romeo, because if we hang a right, we're going the wrong way. Hang a left on Romeo, down here to Kilo, hang a right, and that'll put us holding short of runway 33. There are a couple areas here. These are runway incursion hotspots. So hotspot number 1 is pretty close to us. Aircraft taxiing via taxiway E, Echo, which is it's like the taxiway that runs right here, actually. This little crossway here from runway 25 left. To taxiway G and taxiway K, so this is G over here and this is K right here, and then to runway 33. Sometimes miss the turn from taxiway G onto taxiway K, okay, and continue taxiway G across runway 7 left 25 right. So it looks like there's some turns getting missed if they're coming down here instead of making the turn here at G, or the turn here at K, they're continuing across here to 25 left, across runway 25 right, 7 left. So anyway, you get the point, right? We don't have any traffic out there anyway. That took way longer than it should have, because we're literally taxiing like 200 feet away. So anyway, ATIS on 135.5, clearance on 119.4, ground on 121.9, and tower on 118.3. That takes care of our taxi briefing. Let's take a look at our departure briefing. So it's going to be the turn again 7, or turn a 7 for runway 33. Now I didn't notice this until after. I mean, the plane's already in the air by the time I'm recording this, but it says up here that radar is required, and this is category A and B aircraft weighing 17,500 pounds or less only. Well, that is definitely not us, but oh well. This is what we flew. So yeah, it's a straightforward departure. I guess we shouldn't have used this one, but it is what it is. So it's basically you climb out until you hit 600 feet, and then you make a climbing right turn all the way around to the TED VOR, which is, or the Anchorage VOR, which is TED, and then on from there. In fact, there's actually quite a few instructions down here under initial climb, but we'll get to that in a minute. The Anchorage departure is on 126.4, airport elevation at 151 feet. Coming down here, there are some obstacles for runway 33. You probably can't read that, but it says trees, bush, and nav aid beginning 10 feet from departure end of the runway, 85 feet left of center line, up to 60 feet AGL, or 182 feet MSL. Trees beginning 390 feet from departure end of the runway, 326 feet right of the center line, up to 60 feet AGL, 232 feet MSL. So just some departures basically. This SID does require takeoff minimums, on and on it goes. Let's talk about the initial climb though. You climb on heading 327, that's the runway heading there, until leaving 600 feet, then a climbing right turn to 2,000 feet. direct to the TED VOR or Anchorage VOR. After passing the TED VOR, climb to flight level 200 or assigned altitude on heading 200. Expect radar vectors to assigned route. Expect further clearance to filed altitude within 10 minutes after departure. So in other words, we're going to climb out here till we hit 600 feet, make a climbing right turn, and then because we're not using ATC, basically once we cross the TED or Anchorage TED VOR, 200 degrees on our heading, and then direct on course from there all the way up to flight level 410. All of that probably took longer than it should have, but there you have it. Alright, we got her here holding short of the runway. Let's go ahead and take care of our before takeoff procedures and flows. We want our transponder to go to TARA. That gets rid of that, what do you call it on there, that traffic announcement or whatever. Wow, I hate when it does that. I think sometimes my computer's on its own program. Landing lights can come on, runway turnoff lights can come on, taxi lights can come off, strobe lights can come on. Those are all good. Departure briefing's been taken care of. We're going to depart now. Flaps are set, transponder is set. Radar terrain as needed before takeoff checklist performed. That was already done because it's just making sure that the flaps are set, and that's going to roll us right into our takeoff. So a little jump from track IR here. There we go. Go ahead and release those brakes. Oh, you may have noticed as we pulled up it says runway 32 instead of 33. That is an FSX thing. So the runway is now runway 33 because over time, believe it or not, cardinal directions change. So the runway numbers change as well. So it's runway 33 now, not runway 32.
32.
But it's going to tell us it's runway 32 because that's what's in FSX. So either way, here we go. Let's start just kind of inching around here, not going too fast. And then once we turn around the center line of the runway here, we'll just go ahead and throttle up. And as a reminder, there is a hidden click spot right here for the toga button. Still not sure why it doesn't work with my, what do you call it? FSUI PC. I have it mapped to a button on the Yoke, but it doesn't work for some reason. But anyway, it is what it is. Roller past center line here a little bit and swing her around. This thing turns nice and tight too. Bring in just a little throttle to keep her moving.
On runway 32.
33. A little more throttle as we start to straighten up here. Get her rolling down the runway. Remember, we're using full takeoff thrust. We're a little heavy, but we're not real heavy, guys. We're not real heavy, so it's going to get off the ground, no problem. We got plenty of runway, over 10,000 feet to work with. Throttle's coming up a little. Let them stabilize. And toga.
Check thrust.
Whoop. Try and keep her centered. Nice sound.
80 knots.
Check.
Check. One. Rotate.
Rotate. Boy, I was all over this runway though, wasn't I? And we are airborne, ladies and gentlemen. Positive rate of climb gear coming up. There it is. We can zoom this out just a little bit. Obviously, we're following our flight director here. Not doing a very good job of it, but we're following it. Woo! There we go. Passengers in the back screaming.
Gear up.
Okay, so it's climb 1, so it's already reducing thrust. That's why it wants us to bring the nose down. Downward trim here will help. There we go. Okay, flaps can go to 1. Well, it wasn't playing around when it started reducing thrust, was it? It's gonna be a sharp turn from TED. I kind of don't like the way that's set up, but it is what it is, right? We're still hand flying. Probably put the autopilot on here in just a minute. Okay, flaps can come up. Let's go ahead and engage the autopilot.
Autopilot on.
There we go. Track iron coming off. Little jump here. Fantastic. So let us do its thing for a minute here while I take a look at our after takeoff information. Come on. Oh, I guess the flight attendant's talking back there. So gear is up, flaps are up, engine anti-ice is in the auto position, which is where we want it. And that is pretty much our after takeoff flow. Top down here, and for some reason this thing turned itself off. I don't know why. Put that on CDU. Let's go to our checklist up here. Take care of our after takeoff checklist. Landing gear up, flaps up, after takeoff checklist complete. Put it to that one there. Go back to the nav display. Back up here. Basically the only thing we have to do now, other than keeping an eye on this thing, is once we clear 10,000 feet, we need those landing lights to come off. And that'll be it, folks. So that means it's time for some of that obligatory elevator music. Alright, taking a look at our arrival into Philadelphia today. It's going to be the Bunts 2 arrival, and we're going to enter at the Harrisburg or HAR VOR right out here. We'll head out of there from well, that's interesting. We'll head out from the Harrisburg VOR at 117 degrees. It's 37.4 miles on the 117 degree radial down here to the LRP or the Lancaster VOR. Bang a left from there, 104 degrees down to Trag, and then continuing on course down here to Bunts, and then from there on to our approach. So it's basically expect vectors probably from Bunts. I've already got our approach picked out. It's going to be runway 27, right? We'll be going over that here in a little while. But pretty straightforward on that. There is a couple of, these are minimum altitudes here, 3,000 feet, 2,800 feet. Obviously, we're going to be quite a bit higher than that. I mean, it's 37 miles, 37 and a half miles from here to here, 16 from here to here, 8, almost 9 from here to here, and then, you know, you've got another probably 15 miles before we're actually on the runway there. So we won't be quite that low when we're out here at HAR. Direct distance from Bunts to Philadelphia International is 27 nautical miles. So it's 27 from here to here. So yeah, we got plenty of room to work with. Routing down here, that's basically everything we just talked about, your routing information. ATIS is going to be on 133.4. It says for airport elevation C graphic, it's 36 feet. There you have it right there. And then altitude set in inches, transition level flight level 180, transition altitude or 18,000 feet. And it says this star is for aircraft capable of 250 knots or greater knots indicated airspeed. So obviously we meet that. So pretty straightforward. That takes care of our arrival briefing, and we'll be on to the approach briefing here shortly. Actually, no. We'll be on to our descent and then our approach briefing. Almost got me there. Alright, we're going to be on our top of descent here shortly. The first thing that I want to do is take care of resetting my MCP altitude setting. Now the reason I do that first is because I get busy talking and taking care of all the different things that we're going to do, and I might forget to do it. Technically, the right way to do it, of course, is to allow your, well, not allow, but wait for ATC to give you instructions on what altitude they want you to fly at. I'm actually fixing my microphone here. What altitude they want you to fly at. And then you would adjust to that altitude. Obviously, we don't have the luxury of that, if you will. Let me flip this down because we need to be at 2100. Now, I'm going to pause for just a second here because I want to make sure that for some reason my microphone sounds weird. I want to make sure it's recording properly, so I'll be right back just a second. Alright, so it seems to be recording just fine, so not worried about that. But anyway, the point I was getting at is we're not using ATC, so obviously we're just going to set our altitude either at our first altitude restriction that we know about based on our arrival, which we don't have any on this one, or at the altitude for our approach, which in this case is, I believe, 2100 feet. So that being said, let's go ahead and take care of our descent procedure. We want to hit the recall button. That's one of the first things, well, that is the first thing we always do. Make sure we don't have any warnings, messages, anything like that. And then we want to take care of our reference speeds. So we come down here and click on... My brain just went completely blank here. I think it's initial reference. No. Yeah. Index. Why am I losing my mind here? Where's my... There we go, approach. I just completely drew a total blank. Like, I just totally faked the funk going right through that. I couldn't remember where to go. Okay? Initial reference. Click on index. Go to the approach page. And then you're going to select your flap and approach setting. I'm going to go with this one. That's going to be nice and slow there, 128 knots, huh? Should be a nice smooth landing. So select it and then put it in the into the empty space there, and we're good to go. You can see the ILS is already programmed in there, 108.95. You'll be getting the approach brief here in a few minutes. That takes care of our approach reference, despite me being completely lost on that for some reason. And landing distance and auto brakes. I don't remember the length of the runway. It's a little bit short. I specifically purposely chose the shorter runway, but we're going to be really late. So auto brake 2 should be more than enough to handle the braking of the aircraft. Radio barrel minimums as needed for the approach. It's going to be 200 feet. We're going to leave it on radio just because that's what I do. And then do the approach briefing. Obviously, the approach briefing is going to take place here in a couple minutes. Then we take care of our descent checklist, which we'll do down here real quick. Go to checklist, descent checklist, recall is checked, notes are checked, auto brake is set, landing data is set, and approach for briefing technically will be complete here in a couple of minutes when we actually start our descent here. So next normal checklist will be the approach checklist. There we go. And it occurred to me that, you know, this says CDU here, so somebody's probably going to be like, well, you call it FMC all you want, but even they call it a CDU. Okay, just wanted to throw that out there real quick. That takes care of everything for our descent procedure other than actually starting the descent. Now remember, for the Boeing aircraft, when you reset the MCP altitude, again, this is the MCP mode control panel, it's going to start the descent on its own. There's nothing for us to do. Unlike the Airbus where you have to actually click or push on the knob in order to get to actually start the descent. So that being said, it'll start descending on its own here shortly. As we're waiting for it to do that, let's go ahead and jump right into our approach briefing so that we can have that knocked out of the way. Okay, after fumbling my way a little bit through the arrival briefing a little while ago, hopefully we'll do a little bit better on the approach briefing. Our wind is looking to be about 300-15 knots, so we're going to be using runway 27 right. It's going to be the ILS for us today, because why not? The ATIS is going to be on 133.4, approach on 124.35. The tower for us is going to be this guy here, 118.5. Ground on 121.65. It doesn't actually give a difference between these two, so I don't know if those are based on where you're at or if they just pass you off. They're going to pass this off to 121.9. Localizer frequency is 108.95 and final approach course at 266 degrees. Glide slope starts at Jalto intersection or Jalto waypoint at 2100 feet. ILS decision altitude 211 feet above, what is that, MSL, and then 200 feet AGL. Airport elevation is 36 feet. Touchdown zone elevation is at 11 feet. Talk about the missed approach here in a minute, but let's take a look at our map view here. We're actually going to come in over here at Menge or Mengi, not really sure how we're going to pronounce that, but that's where we're going to come in at off of our arrival over here to Menge, and then we'll hang a right to 200 degrees down here to Martin. I think that's supposed to be Martin, and then a right on the final approach course from there of 266 degrees down to Jalto, then Hodney, and then on in from there. If you look at our profile view, there it is at Martin, shows us at 3,000 feet, descending down to 2,100 feet at Jalto, where we should intercept our glide slope onto Hodney, and then IPDP DME or whatever that's supposed to mean right there. As far as the missed approach goes, first of all, we're going to have PAPI lights on the left-hand side of the runway. This approach will climb straight ahead to 1,500 feet, at which point we'll make a right turn to 3,000 feet out to MXE VOR. Looks like the 115 degree radial off the MXE VOR, and then out to MXE. Up here on our narrative, missed approach is climb to 1,500 feet, climbing right turn to 3,000 inbound. So I was close, not quite right. Inbound via the MXE VOR 115 degree radial until we hit the MXE VOR and then hold there. And that pretty much sums it up for our approach. Alright, you can see we're about 10 miles from Menge or Mengi, however we're saying it, where we'll make our turn and then swing around onto final at Martin and on down to Jalto from there. We pretty much got everything taken care of. Obviously, we're below 10,000 feet. Landing lights are already on. Runway turn-off lights have been turned on. Strobe light remained on. I did take the logo lights off, which was good. We won't start the APU until after we land. Taking a look at our approach procedure here. Let's see here. We've got... oh, hold on, I gotta find my place now. Altimeters need to be set. We've already taken care of that. 2981, that's done. Runway turn-off, strobe lights, logo lights, at night only, landing lights, wing lights, all required. At transition level or as appropriate, set and cross-check the altimeters. We already taken care of that. An approach checklist needs to be performed. Let's hop down here and do that real quick before we make this turn. And approach checklist, altimeters set, they are. And then our landing checklist, which will actually take care of itself. And I'm going to leave that up there, so when we arm the speed brake, in fact, I'll arm it right now, shift and tab, and see it shows that it's armed. And then when the landing gear comes down and when we reach full flaps, flaps 30, it'll automatically check those off for us. So it kind of takes care of the landing checklist for us. Of course, if you had somebody else in the aircraft with you, then they would actually look at the checklist and make sure that everything was taken care of. I'm going to bring the speed down to 180 here. I like to do that before I make these final turns here. You can see, boy, she's descending a little quick there, huh? We can bring in the next flap setting. That's going to put us at flaps 5. That'll also help slow us down a little bit. And then once we make this turn here at Menge or Mengi, I'll go ahead and hit the VOR localizer button over here, and that'll help us, that'll lock onto the localizer for us. And then once the localizer's locked on, we can hit the approach switch, which will help us lock onto the glide slope and so on. And I'm just trying to, I don't know, I guess I feel like I have to fill in time here. Maybe I should just shut up and let the plane fly. Landing speed's 128 knots, nice and slow. Should be a nice smooth landing. I've had some good smooth landings in this airplane. I hope to continue that tradition, if you will. Alright, about to make our turn here. Let's go ahead and bring that down to 5 miles, our range there. I think weather radar can come off at this point. Let's just turn it off now so I don't have to worry about it later. I don't have any issues with terrain. Traffic, we'll leave it on, that's fine. And then airport, we'll turn that one on as well. Get rid of that thing real quick. Everything's looking good. Starting the turn at Mengi here. Let's go ahead and hit our VOR localizer switch. And when it locks onto that localizer, it'll... boy, that got really choppy there, didn't it? I don't know why it's so choppy. Maybe just making that turn. It's kind of ugly looking. Let's see what it shows here. Oh, yeah, frame rates went down in the toilet, huh? Oish. Well, that's kind of crummy there. I've been having some issues with my frame rates lately. I'm going to turn off my charts over here to the left. Hopefully that'll help a little bit getting that program shut down. Everything else that's running is running for FSX, so we're kind of stuck with it. Going to go to the next flap setting here. Let's bring that speed down to 160. Well, I got really ridiculously choppy. That's a real shame. Yeah, I look forward to when they release the P3D version of this for P3D version 4. I mean, after all, we're looking at 64-bit on that system now, which means we shouldn't have these types of issues. And I haven't had any so far flying around in it, so that's nice. Alright, should lock onto the localizer here shortly. Let me pop this up for you. You'll see that white LOC will turn green. When it does, that means the localizer's been locked onto. It means it's grabbed it, however you want to put it. Intercepted it. Maybe that's the word we're looking for. Intercepted the localizer. Just waiting on that right now. I mean, 160 knots is pretty slow, right? So, and you can see we're just above our maneuvering speed for the flap setting. So it should lock. There it is. Now it locked on. You see it flip green right there. Now we'll hit the approach switch. It'll stay locked onto the localizer, and now the glide slope turns white like that. So let's go ahead and let's drop our landing gear now. Bring in another setting of flaps. That's going to put us at flaps 20. Let's bring that speed down to 140 for now. I like a nice slow approach. Just gives me more time to get everything set up. I know that, you know, in the real world they approach a good bit faster, but we are going to have a nice healthy crosswind here. Should make for a fun landing. Last one was a crosswind landing too. Didn't go too bad at all, actually. I think I managed to do pretty good on that one. Boy, that chop is just killing me. I hope I don't get a slideshow on this. I mean, we're looking at anywhere from 11 to 15 frames per second. I don't know. That's just crap in my opinion. But it is what it is. We're just gonna have to suck it up on this one. So let's center this up here. Just let her fly down the ILS a little bit more on its own. That FMC message just doesn't want to go away, does it? Let me pop that up here real quick. 2500. Here's our 2500 call. Looking good. Boy, I hate when it gets choppy like that, though. Don't you guys? It's just so frustrating. Alright, so 128 is our landing speed, so 133 is what we want to bring our speed down to. So let's just go ahead and set that up right now. Boy, I went right past it, didn't I? There we go, 133. Bring her all the way to full flaps. Speed brake has already been armed. Full flaps coming in, and then if you hop down here, you see it's taking care of the entire landing checklist at this point. So, and that's our shutdown checklist. We don't need that right now, so put that one on CDU. Jump back up here. Track IR coming on a little jump. There we go. Supposed to have PAPI lights on the left-hand side of the runway. I'm not seeing them. It's kind of messed up if you ask me. There's our 2100 feet. We're just about to intercept the glide slope here. You can see it's already turned green on there. So we technically have intercepted it. Now we're starting to descend on it. Just letting the aircraft fly itself for a minute, mostly because it's choppy right now. When it gets choppy, it really becomes a pain to control the aircraft, doesn't it? Alright, let her just settle in here. Alright, let's take the autopilot off. Autopilot's off at this point. Auto throttle is still on. I left the auto throttles on. Nice little crosswind. I'm liking it. I don't like that the PAPI lights aren't there that are supposed to be, but it is what it is. And so we'll use the trim to adjust for now, to adjust our rated descent. This is one nice thing about track IR is I can look straight down the runway even though we're off to the side, even though the nose is pointed to the right. We got a 12 knot crosswind where we're at right now.
Landing checklist.
Landing checklist. Gear is down, flaps are down, and what was the other one on there? Oh, speed brake set. Is it? Yes, it is. Speed brake is armed. That's what we're looking for. Drifted to the right just a little bit there, and we're getting just a little low as well. Okay, let's take that auto throttle off now as well. There we go. Looks like we're losing a little bit of that crosswind. The wind's dying just a little bit. We're expecting 10 knots at the runway, so Looking good. Not too bad.
1,000.
Alright, let's listen for our call-outs and fly this bad boy in. Looks a little high to me, but what do I know?
Approaching 27 right.
Speed got just a little low, not bad though.
500.
And we're at our landing speed right now. We should be a little bit faster.
400. 300. Approaching minimums.
Little choppy, not too bad.
Minimums. 200.
Get over there.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
Oh, pulled a little hard. Floated it pretty bad too. There we go. Got her down though. Little reverse. Up to the next exit here. Let me pop up my A cars over here and see how that looks. See what that landing rate was. Well, it was a little harder than the last one. It was minus 92. Still not bad.
We will be taxiing for the next few minutes, so please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened
There
until
we
the
go.
captain turns off the fasten seatbelt sign. At that time, please remember to check around your seating area, in the seat pockets, and overhead bins for all personal belongings that you brought on board.
Alright, start bringing the
Please
flaps
take care
up,
when
cleaning
opening
her up
the
here.
overhead bins, as the contents may have shifted during flight.
And it's hard to click those with track IR, isn't it? Strobe light can come off. Alright, real quick here. Let's take care of, let's make sure we didn't miss anything on our after landing flow. Oh, that's the wrong page, so that's not going to do us any good. Pretty sure we didn't miss anything though. We're going to pull right into that gate right straight ahead of us. I'm trying to look at pages while taxiing here without making a complete disaster out of things. Oh, APU needs to come on. There we go. Still take a minute to start up, but this is where that ground guide with GSX is helpful, isn't it? Well, we'll see how my parking job ends up. There we go. Parking brake coming on. Boy, it is just ridiculously choppy. Come on. There we go. Track IR coming off. Little jump here. I do not like the chop at all. It's ridiculous. Okay. As far as the after landing flow, speed brake, we brought it down. Flaps are up. Transponder was supposed to go to transponder mode. And it'll go to standby here in a second anyway, so I'm just going to roll it over. We should have turned the taxi light off as we pulled in here. I didn't do that. APU has already been started. Anti-ice as required. Lights off. That was landing lights and so on. And then weather radar off. I turned the weather radar off as we were approaching because we didn't need it anymore, so there's no reason to leave it on. Which is going to take us into our shutdown flow. So the parking brake needs to be set. Fuel cutoff switches need to go in the off position. But let's make sure that our APU is up and running fully first here. Let's pop that up so you guys can see it. Yep, APU is fully up and running, so we're good on that. So we can go ahead and shut the engines down now. Whoa, what was that? Somehow I accidentally clicked on the reverse thrust there. Alright, engine's getting shut down now. Seatbelt signs can come off. Most of the stuff, again, this is a flow, so seatbelt signs would come off. Hydraulic pumps would come off. There we go. What else? IRS selectors would go off. Both of those. Fuel pumps can all come off. I guess you don't need the fuel pump on for the APU, which is interesting. Engine anti-ice will stay as is. Beacon can go off. Wing light can go off. We need the nav light to stay on. Flight director's off. Transponder's already in the standby mode, so we're good on that. Both the flight director's off. And then external power as required. So we're going to put external power on the aircraft really quick. Let's go ahead and turn that on. That way we can hop up here and we can go ahead and shut the APU down now. So external power is available. Turn the APU off. Now we're on the external power. What else? Transponder's already set. IRS selector's already set. That takes us to our secure procedure. That was the shutdown procedure. That takes us to our secure procedure. So emergency lights need to be off. So right click that and then right click the little switch there as well. PACs and lower, what does it say? PACs and lower recirc fan. So not the upper, just the lower. Interesting. So PACs off, recirc fan lower goes off, but it doesn't say anything about the upper. EFB power switch goes off. EFB power switch. How have I not seen that one before? There's the power switch there. EFB is now off. APU and external power off, and then battery switch off, and that'll bring us secure. So if we hop back up here, we can turn the APU power off, get rid of the external power, turn that thing off, turn the battery off, and that's it. That's all. No more, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to wrap it up for this flight. Just like always, I hope that you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed flying it. I really do enjoy flying these. Let's go ahead and shut down our A cars real quick. We haven't done that yet. So as you can see, everything is good to go. All the lights are off. We can stop the flight at this point. PIREP is ready. Fantastic. Scheduled flight time was 5 hours 45 minutes. And where's our actual flight time? Flight time is 5 hours 58 minutes. So we were just over by just a little bit. Not too bad, actually. Landing rate wasn't my best, but it certainly wasn't that bad either. It's still less than 100 feet a minute, so you can't really complain about that, right? And yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this one. I want to let's file the PIREP real quick. File the PIREP here. There it is. It's filed. We can close that out. Take a real quick minute here, and I just want to recognize some folks. If you look, this is the news feed from Mac Air, and you can see that we've got some folks that are completing their private pilot check ride, and there's a notification in there about when I was coming back finally after a long hiatus. And then over here we've got the top landing rates, at least for when I grabbed this screenshot. So maybe I'll be on the list here shortly, but just like to take a minute to recognize some of these folks, and to recognize not only all of our pilots over at Mac Air. We appreciate you guys joining up with us and flying with us, but also to recognize our staff once again and all the hard work they do. I really appreciate it. Don't forget, if you're going to sign up for Mac Air, folks, make sure that when you do sign up that you read the pilot's operating handbook. And that you sign up for the forums and read the POH first, because there's a certain way a certain naming convention you're supposed to use in the forums, and if you don't use it, then then your forum account will be denied, and you can't file PIREPs or anything like that unless you have an active forum account with us as well. It could be some of you might think that's frustrating, but that's the way we set it up. That's the way we like to keep it, because we're a community, right? So yeah, join us over there, Mac Air. What is it, macairvirtual.com. I always forget the address. I'll pop it up on here anyway. And I don't think there's anything else to add, except, of course, don't forget that you can hit that subscribe button over there. Boy, I'm just bumbling around. I never know how to close out a video. Smash the subscribe button for me real quick. We're up over 5,000 subscribers. We've got a couple of really special things coming as a result of that, and I just want to thank every one of my subscribers for taking the time to not only hit the button there, which doesn't really take that long, but also taking the time to watch the videos. I really appreciate it. And you can always go over to Facebook. You can like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter, and of course you can follow us now on Twitch at CaptainMac3588. Look for some new series coming out pretty soon, and all kinds of other stuff. I'm trying to do as much as I can. I just don't get a lot of time to do it, but whatever chance I get, I'm putting some videos together for you guys, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch them and all of the support that you guys have given me. So that's going to wrap it up, folks. Until next time, don't forget, as always, keep the blue side up, unless otherwise instructed by ATC. God bless you all, and have a fantastic day.